We always here on Futbol Americas love some Santi stats. They have been ever positive of late. All right, Herc, as we mentioned, this was a much-hyped debut, and for once, it about lived up to it.
About time. I mean, and Santi Gimenez is absolutely that player to do it. He's been on fire, whether it's a Eredivisie, whether it's Cup games, whether it was Europa League last season. Can he do it at a higher level, we kept saying? Can he do it somewhere that's not the Eredivisie? Well, he did it against a team from Italy that are supposed to be tactically, defensively very structured, difficult to play against. And he scores 2 goals in his Champions League debut. And I mentioned it. He had a header in the first half. He had the goal that's called back. You can let those moments define you. He does not. At an early age, he's showing all the signs of a player who could have a great career.
Yeah. I love who he did it against, Herc. Because Lazio's not having a great season right this second, but they're a top 4 team out of Serie A last season. For something, they are in the Champions League, okay? And you don't get to be a top team out of Italy, one of the top 5 leagues in the world, without having some quality. But very specifically, Casale, Nicolo Casale, the guy that he was going up against, that he was battling one-on-one, that is a 6'3", 25-year-old center back that just got called into the Italian national team. That is a big dude in his prime from a country that knows how to produce defenders. And say what you will, Herc, about the Italian national team. They are the reigning champions of Europe, okay? If you are not just doing well against that player, but you are dominating that player, and he dominated him. He spun him on the goal, he got him to pick up a yellow card, and he actually physically dominated him as well. He put his own arm into the guy's face and got himself a yellow card. Maybe not the smartest thing, but something you love to see from a Mexican forward, and maybe we haven't seen from a Mexican forward since the likes of probably Jared Borghetti, that generation. So I love what I saw from Santi Gimenez, and I love how he did it. To dominate at this level is something that we hadn't seen before. I think you're right. There were some big goals in Europa League last year. There were some goals in the Dutch League. Doing against Lazio isn't Real Madrid, but it's still a step up.
We saw this before, because he actually did it to Lazio in Europa League. He's got 5 goals against Lazio in European competition. You know, last year Europa League, this year Champions League. Lazio is not doing so well right now, but you ask Lazio if they expected that from Santi Gimenez, especially not playing his first 2 Champions League games due to suspension. Ask anybody if they thought this would be the outcome, this would be what we would see, or this response from Santi Gimenez. I think everybody's surprised by this.
Yeah, the Italian press, they're going crazy. They couldn't say enough nice things about him. And Feyenoord, by the way, it's translating into team success as well. Right now, they're first in the group. So Santiago Gimenez dominating. And I think when we started the Champions League group phase, Herc, we probably wouldn't have picked Feyenoord as the team with CONCACAF representation most likely to get through. As things sit now, I think you've got to feel pretty good about their chances to reach the knockout rounds of the Champions League. And then you would really got to see some good tests potentially for Santiago Gimenez. And maybe, Herc, some matchups against teams he might potentially play for. And that's where we're going next, because there are reports out of Europe which suggest that Santiago Gimenez has 2 choices in terms of where he might end up. 2 favorites. Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League or Real Madrid in La Liga. Herc, where would you rather see Santi go?
All right, I got a case for why I would want him to go to a team and why I wouldn't want to see him go to another team. But let me start off with why I would want to see him go to Spurs. Ange Postecoglou is by any means a coach that if you don't know who he is, research him. I'll give you a little background story. The Australian manager has really done his work, has really put his time in. Coached in Australia, coached in the Greek 3rd Division, coached in Japan, coached Celtic in Scotland, and he's got a theme about him. It doesn't matter where you're from. If you're a good player, he'll ignore the passports, he'll give you a chance, and he will make you shine. Ange Ball is something serious. And for those 9s, it's very physically demanding on both sides of the ball. You need to be able to run. You need to be able to work. You need to be able to understand movements. Santi Gimenez could be that 9. He could shine in this type of system for Postecoglou. And we're talking about the best team in the Premier League right now, numbers-wise, but it doesn't have the reflectors. It doesn't have the shine or the circus of a team like Real Madrid. Now, here's my worry about Santi Gimenez going straight into the deep waters like a team like Real Madrid. You go back through its history of his transfers and whatnot, the Eredivisie, to Real Madrid. I told you a few weeks ago that only Jean-Claude Juntelar had done it in the mid-2000s, and that didn't go very well. 4 goals scored. All right, last time they spent some money on a 9 was, do you remember the player, Jovic, excuse me. It's Luka Jovic. Luka Jovic, the Serbian player. Out of Frankfurt
about 60
for 3
million,
years.
right?
Yeah, it was like 65 million euros, but for 3 years, Jovic was banging in goals in the Bundesliga from age 18 to 21. He had like 35 goals in 3 Bundesliga seasons. Gets sold, big money to Real Madrid, and what happened, Seb? The man ended up scoring 2 goals in La Liga, gets let go.
You don't believe in Santiago Gimenez. That's what it is.
Let me finish what I'm saying. Since then, four seasons have gone by. The man scored 13 league goals. Right now, in case you're wondering where he's at, he's riding the bench right now with AC Milan. Hasn't really played, hasn't scored a goal for them. You've got to be very careful to where you go. I'm not saying I don't believe in Santi Gimenez, but there are places that can set you up to shine. I do believe Spurs, forget about just how realistic it is, because I think that could be realistic and there could be a good price tag that works for everybody in there for him, in there for Spurs. But I think it's a situation where he will play. Let me ask you a question, Seb.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Let's say he goes to Real Madrid and in 10 games scores 5 goals. Okay? But there's a kid who's lighting up in the Eredivisie, kind of like Santi's numbers. Do you think Santi's in trouble?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, because those are Joselu's numbers. Okay? And Joselu has scored double-digit goals in the last 4 seasons.
Did they invest in Joselu
La
what they're
Liga.
about to invest in Santiago Gimenez?
Do you hear
it's
what
a
I said?
very different story.
Do you hear what I said?
Joselu's a Band-Aid, and you know it.
Listen to what I'm telling you. Joselu has scored double-digit goals in league play for the last 4 years. Okay? He's a Spanish national team forward. Seb, all I am telling you is it's a dangerous place to be.
Okay. Listen, I don't hate Tottenham. I actually think both of these would be great landing spots for him. I think they could be both great. I will go with Real Madrid for a few reasons here. One, I think the football fits him better. I think La Liga is probably a better fit for Santiago Gimenez if we look at his technical abilities than the Premier League. I think there's also a history of guys going from the Dutch League to the Premier League and struggling to adapt. Okay, so I would like to see him make the jump to Spanish football. And of course, there's no bigger club in Spanish football, unless you're a Barcelona fan, than Real Madrid. I also think, Herc, just in terms of squad competition right now, if I were to compare Richarlison with Joselu, I think it's tougher to beat out Richarlison for the number 9 job at Spurs than it's going to be to beat out Joselu for the number 9 job at Real Madrid. And producer Beto was worried. He said, no way Real Madrid, because in a year or two they're going to bring Mbappe, and then you're really in trouble. I don't think Mbappe has to play through the middle. I think if you look at where he's playing right now with PSG, he's off to the left side in a 4-3-3. They had him in a 4-4-2 the other day. He was playing with another forward right there. I don't think Mbappe has to play through the middle. I don't think that means Santiago Gimenez goes to the bench as soon as they bring Mbappe in. So I would love to see him at Real Madrid because I believe in the player, and I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The spot at Real Madrid, the opening that is there now, is not going to last for another transfer window or two. Certainly not another summer transfer window or two. They are going to fill it. Tottenham Hotspur is an amazing club. But with all due respect, that will be there after you go to Real Madrid if you can't make it at Madrid. If you go to Tottenham Hotspur and it doesn't work out, forget ever having the chance at Real Madrid. You have to take this opportunity.
Who's the coach right now at Real Madrid? Who's the coach right now at Real Madrid?
Ancelotti.
Who's the coach next year at Real Madrid?
We don't know. We don't know.
Oh, look at that. We don't know. Because he's most likely going to go to Brazil. And right now he's playing with 2 forwards, Rodrigo and Vinicius. So what you're asking for, because Jude Bellingham is playing in that 10 role, what you're asking for is for one of them to be let go, right? And if Mbappe comes in, are you sending Vinicius to the bench so Santi Gimenez can play?
Bro, we're talking about a top 4 with Jude,
I'm just asking you a question. I'm asking you a question.
Mbappe, unstoppable.
You're not Luis Enrique with the top 4. Come on.
Unstoppable. It'll be Xabi Alonso in charge. And he'll figure out how to do it in the top 4. He's a good coach.
Hopefully it will be Xavi.